Remember that record that you bought me like 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet. So I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh, why don't you come over and talk about it?
Recently, I feel like I've been coming to terms with my own faith. So I've studied, like, I went back and read a lot of the Bible or listened to it on YouTube. For the first time ever, read a lot of the New Testament and, learned about Jesus, which I never really learned. And so I think I studied Buddhism a lot when I was like growing up. So I don't know necessarily how I would classify it, but I would just say, like, definitely heavily believing in God would be like my faith.
Mm-hmm. That's sick.
Jeremy, just a follow-up question to that. Did you ever study the sixth God? Is that part of your...
It's interesting. When there's so many sixes in the scripture, you should be afraid.
Oh,
let's
Jeremy,
go.
preach.
Yeah. I was a believer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Not in a sacrilegious way.
Past tense.
Not a sacrilegious way. But
right.
as the people listening know, it's been no secret that, at one point I was a heavy Drake stan, still a Drake fan. And, this album in this time period specifically for me is very nostalgic, very meaningful. It's funny listening back. I remembered exactly where I was in my life during this time, and I almost like went back there, like old relationships were flaring up, friendships, like, family stuff, where I was at dreaming wise, and of course where music was at when Drake dropped and the whole Meek situation. This was a pivotal time period for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Was this like before or after Meek, this situation?
This is before.
Is right before, but it kind of coincides because it's like right after, if you're reading this, drops. So Drake's kind of on top of the world, right? Like Drake's, to paint the picture, we're 2015, around summertime, and Drake's kind of on top of the world. He's dropping a lot of loosies. He's coming off of Nothing Was the Same, which kind of put him in that top spot, I would say. Him and Kendrick were still kind of going back and forth to some degree for that spot because Good Kid, Mad City had come out. But Drake, I think, solidified that top spot with Nothing Was the Same, dropping, in my opinion, his best album. And then, he's dropping features, he's dropping singles, he's dropping loosies, and he's kind of testing out this new flow. I believe was 0 to 100 that summer before, if you're reading this. Okay, so on that he says, you took the summer off, because on if you're reading this, you took the summer off. I couldn't tell, dog. So like he's basically saying, like, I took a little break still. I gave you guys some time. He dropped Blessings with Big Sean. Like he was doing a feature run. And then after that, if you're reading this, kind of was this victory lap moment or prep moment before Views was supposed to come out. Views was kind of heralded as his magnum opus at the time. It was talked about like, this is going to be the project. It's a culmination of what he's done so far. It's going to be the project. Elliot Wilson actually is the one, ironically, who tweets out the next mixtape is called If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. And there's an actual tweet that exists that says that. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? This isn't real. Like, this is fake. And then, so be it, the next day or later that night, a mixtape drops with the cover art. And it's just, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, in handwriting. It looks almost like a meme. You're like, is this real? Like, what's happening? But there you have it. A mixtape drops, and it was a new flow. It was kind of a continuation of a little bit of what we saw in like 305 to My City with that like slowed down, like kind of more aggressive tone. But I think it was definitely a switch in direction, and I think it was an important project and kind of maybe got overshadowed as to what happened right after. But that drops, and then I think like a couple months later, Meek drops, and then Drake didn't tweet my album out. He doesn't write his own raps.
But all right, everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to I've Been Meaning to Listen to That, the podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to and use that as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee.
I'm Stanley Philippe.
I'm John Butts.
And this is fucking huge and an incredible honor. You might know him from Hip Hop DX, The Bigger Picture, Culture United, Sound Check with Jeremy Hecht, or as Joey Badass pitched, Sound Checked with Jeremy Hecht. It's Jeremy Hecht, everybody.
Yeah.
Hip hop journalist legend. On our show.
Thank you guys so much. I'm excited to be here. I listened to the album in preparation for the first time in a while. It stood the test of time. That stood the test of time, so I'm excited to talk about it, excited to learn more about you guys.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, what's your? I'm sure you've covered this just on, Bigger Picture. I'm sure you've just covered this just like at the years covering hip hop. But what is your relationship to Drake then and now?
Depends who you ask, but what I would say is he's pivotal to my growth as a person, pivotal to my journey with hip hop, and pivotal to my life in a lot of ways as the soundtrack to a lot of my early moments, for sure, growing up in Canada, especially being a Jewish Canadian. Drake had, two-thirds of that. He had other experiences that I didn't have, but I did definitely relate a lot to his vulnerable side, his ability to be authentic, his ability to express himself through music. So I would say from the time I heard So Far Gone, I was pretty hooked. 2009, I kind of was a big Wayne fan already. And so, the cosign helped. And that's how I kind of first found out about Drake. I heard So Far Gone in 2009, went back to Comeback Season, Heartbreak Drake mixtapes, and kind of from there became a stan, I would say. Listen, Take Care is up there for my favorite albums. Nothing Was the Same is one of my favorite albums. Definitely my favorite Drake album. I remember, going to Best Buy before school or Walmart or whatever it was, listening to it in the car. And this isn't Drake exclusively. I was a huge Kanye fan. I was a huge Big Sean fan, huge Wale fan, huge, whoever you want to name. But Drake was up there. Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. But whoever you want to name, Drake was always up there with my favorites. And then I would say as time went on, I maybe became less of a stan, quote unquote. Like, it wasn't like I felt like I couldn't critique him or that there was no wrong done musically. But I was still a fan, and I still am a fan musically. But things happen and moves are made, and things happen in battles that maybe change some of your perception. I would say my current, so actually, let me back up a little. So, if you're reading this, It's Too Late was the first time when the ghostwriting allegations happened, the first time that my Drake standum was pierced a little bit. Again, and I this is coming from somebody who wrote a lot. I wrote raps a lot growing up. Like, I was rapping in my city. I was, well known as a local rapper. I was on the radio doing shows. Like, that was my initial dream before media. And around this time, 2015 is actually when I wrote a few of my first pieces. Like, one of my first pieces ever was right after If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. It was called If You're Reading This, Drake is Already a Legend. And it talked about how Drake soundtracks the moments to a lot of this generation's lives through his music, and people grew up with him, which is why people have such a strong attachment to his music. So that's the article I'm writing. That's the dream I have. That's the attachment I have. Then I start to hear the ghostwriting stuff, and I'm like, okay, this hurdle. I was confused. I was like, there's no way. I was like, what do you mean? He always talks about writing. That's his skill. Like, he's written for other people. And so then you hear like the Quentin Miller reference tracks, and I was like, oh, wait. Like, I was like on the edge of my seat as a fan on Twitter all night. Like, rest in peace to OG Mako. Like, he had a tweet about it, and I was like, damn, like, what do you look what Quentin Miller's tweeting, like Meek's tweet. So that kind of pierced the armor a little bit, but the way he responded with Back to Back and then came back with Charged Up, and like in that reverse order. And then, I saw him at OVO Fest that year, and I was like, okay, that's how you handle it as a rapper. I can get over the ghostwriting. You still handle it with raps. And then to drop continuously after that. I liked Views. I didn't love it, but I did like it a lot. I liked it more going back to it. I moved to LA, and then more Life drops around the summer that I moved here. Still huge fan. I would say Scorpion era pierced the armor a little bit more. And maybe at that's the time probably when I stopped becoming like a stan of Drake. I'm like, okay, this guy's not a perfect dude, like, and not to say having a child, there's anything wrong with that. It wasn't that. It was more so the way he was carrying himself as if there was, no mistakes ever and, a little bit holier than thou. And I was like, okay, let me not put anyone on that pedestal. At that same time, Kanye was doing things that he was the other guy I was a stan of. It was Drake and Kanye. And I couldn't, I had to lose my stand from Kanye because everything he was doing that summer. So, I think that was probably the moment I stopped becoming a stan, but I liked Certified Lover Boy. I still liked, I liked Donda. I think that was another crossroads for those two. And again, I liked everything that Drake has done musically to some degree. I think it was really the battle that made me less of a stan per se. Or sorry, if I was a less of a stan after Scorpion, I maybe became less of a fan because of some of the moves that I saw happening during the battle and some of the moves that I heard about happening during that time period. And again, musically, I'm never going to downplay what Drake has meant to me or my life. So it's like not like some OVO stan account can come and be like, look what he's really saying. It's like, I will admit to you 100%. He is one of my favorite rappers ever, one of my favorite artists ever. He also lost the battle. We can agree on two things, okay? It's fine. I'm talking to specific stan accounts, But yeah, that's where I currently stand. That's my long-winded relationship with Aubrey Drake Graham.
What about John and Stanley? What's your relationship to Drake then and now?
Mine mirrors Jeremy a lot. I will say, as a former theater nerd, I was on the Degrassi train, friends. I was watching as a young budding adolescent, learning my lessons, watching Aubrey Graham at the time go from nappy head to the haircut Jimmy to the wheelchair Jimmy. I watched that whole trajectory, and then there was this flip. I remember on that network, they played Replacement Girl, and I remember watching like a behind the scenes thing where he's like, oh yeah, I'm really into rap, and check this out, I got my,
the Notebooks, right?
Yeah, the Notebooks, and I got my CDs. He had like Freshman Adjustment by Kanye West, like a mixtape. So I was like, he knows hip hop. So it was like really validating to see a figure who, is on a teen drama, but also kind of connecting with what I felt like I was connecting with at the time. And then you fast forward and you hear Lil Wayne in his mixtape era, and then listen to Ransom, and you're like, oh, okay. So Drake can really do this. He can really rap. And So Far Gone, and, catapult from there. So I've been following him, for a very long time. Actor, rapper. Similarly, I was kind of off the, like, this is one of my guys train around Scorpion. I still hold him in high regard. Like, there's no way to discredit anything that happened during this era. And we're going to get into so many things. But right now I'm a little conflicted. I'm a little conflicted with Drake, the man, the legend, because I'm interested in his way forward and his recuperation. But yeah, I was there for all the same sort of pathways and hit a lot of my benchmarks with his music. I remember exactly where I was when I heard the beat switch on Know Yourself for the first time. Like, it was transcendent at that time. I was like, I can't believe this is what's happening on this song. This shit is crazy. But been along the Drake train, quote unquote, for quite some time. And
Yeah, for me, I think I talked about this last season when we did Drake Take Care, but I remember I saw Drake in Toronto before So Far Gone, like I think like 2 weeks before it dropped. And this was like a throwback, like 80s parties. We're listening to like 80s music, some 90s music as well. And it's like, all right, this guy Drake, he's gonna perform for y'all. And everyone was just like, we don't fucking care. Like, we want to dance. Why is this loser from Toronto? Because you have to understand, like Toronto, and this is why I can't wait to talk about this album and Views and why I think they both represent Toronto so well. But Toronto is known as a screwface capital. Like, it's a place where people don't necessarily go out of their way to give credit to their own publicly. And so there was this very like kind of hater raid moment where we're just like, who the fuck is this guy? Replacements Girl wasn't that good. It's a Trey Songz song. And then So Far Gone dropped 2 weeks later, and we were all like, oh fuck, we should have shook the man's hands. We should have taken a picture, because we knew like this was the moment where Toronto was going to explode. And I really want to give a shout out to Cardinal Fischel, Choclair, Chaos, like all the guys from Toronto that put Toronto hip hop on a huge scale. Like Cardinal was like an international star. Chaos for me is my favorite Toronto rapper of all time. So Toronto rap was doing its thing, but to have that Lil Wayne cosign, who at the time was the greatest rapper alive, and he proved it this past week with the Carter Six, that legends never die. That was a joke.
I have a lot to say.
Little bit of a joke.
Okay.
But he also proved this theory that I'm working on, which is the 5 album theory. And I think that as I'm grappling with my favorite rapper being just not a good person anymore, Kanye West, yay, the new name. I think that we need to really look at these MCs through the lens of their first 5 albums. And I compare it to sports. Like a lot of, the best athletes of the world, by the time they get to their retirement age, they're trash. Like, they're not good at all. But it doesn't take away from the excellence, the highest of their highs. And with Drake, I feel for me, like after Scorpion, he just decided to be a product of the machine as opposed to being the machine itself. And I think that's okay. Like, I think it's okay for him to be able to retire and just make the music that he wants to make, that he knows is going to sell. But this was a cool reminder of him being able to say, like, I can tap into a moment, a mood, a vibe that I'm going to dictate, and that everyone else is going to have to either adhere to or pay attention to at the very least, because it is breaking through the noise of music. So I'm excited to talk about this album a lot. And I still think Drake matters a lot. I wish Drake battled Kendrick, not Meek, in 2015. I think that would have been a more fair fight than if it happened when it happened almost 10 years later, because that was Kendrick in his prime last year and Drake is no longer in his prime. But that 2014 to 2016 Drake, I think he out-raps anyone, including Kendrick Lamar, in a battle. But that's a hypothetical. So anyways, very excited to talk about If You're Reading This, It's Too Late.
I like the idea of like Drake as a Canadian international star, more like thinking of it that way in terms of just like Celine Dion or something like that, like Carly Rae Jepsen, just like breaking through into American culture and becoming American culture in a really awesome way. I think I imagine that's where the beef kind of stemmed from, is like this international star is like saying that he's the like top tier like rap artists and stuff like that, instead of like saying like, hey, here's your lane, you're the top of your own lane and everything. Let's talk about like this actual project and stuff. Like, what do you feel like this project is about?
It was more of a feeling than a concept or necessarily like a story. I don't think, like, listening back to it, there wasn't necessarily anything that I took from it that was too deep, but it was more like a ramp up of like, I feel like I'm at the top. I feel like I'm willing to compete for the top spot. And in fact, I think I'm there. And so to me, it was a reflection from the top. I know Views is more that. I think Views is actually not just views from the six, but views from like the top of the
CN Tower, like,
and the top of the CN Tower, like top, like the height of that building is metaphorical of where he was at in his career. But I think if you're reading this as like him ready to own up to being the spot, like even if you look at like where he ends the album on 6 p.m. in New York, he said, I think the throne should be the three of y'all. Like he's really saying like I'm at the same level as Kanye and Jay. And so he's putting himself as a peer to these people that he once looked up to. I think that you get some reflection on You and the Six, where he's speaking about like, you know, Rolling Stone, the interview that went, you know, sideways, and then publishing things that he said about Jay-Z. And so that actually caused a lot of his friction with Jay. But also him kind of saying like, you know, I give them the feature and the hook and they sing along with me. Like he was giving features away. You know, he was helping a lot of people with their career while helping his own, you know, not necessarily unselfishly, but he was the guy. And so I think a lot of this is kind of stunt and flex Drake. But you do get moments of vulnerability where like you learn some things. I think like Star 67 was an interesting song where you learn about his phone scamming past, which I always say if I ever interviewed him, that would be something I'd want to ask about. Statute of limitations, barring, because I'm like, we never heard about that before. And then there's this whole like, you know, second half of the song that's about that. But I think that the title track is probably the most telling.
So for me, this is and I don't want to always reference what's happening now, but this feels like the They Not Like Us, but Drake saying this. Like this is Drake after having this beautiful run of, you know, what was the first one?
So Far Gone, Thank Me Later.
Thank Me Later, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same. Like this is like this man is doing an amazing work or really job at rapping and creating albums, and now he's coming home and he's kind of looking at the landscape, like you said, like the Big Sean stuff, the Control verse, the pending Meek beef, the Watch the Throne of it all. Like he's watching the hip-hop game and saying like, oh shit, like you guys are not like me. Like I'm actually am the guy. And as much as you guys are going to try to maybe mimic what I do with melodies and pop rap, you're going to try to, you know, steal my swagger when it comes to relating to a larger audience. You're not like me. And then he goes home, and home is Toronto. And Toronto, we can't underplay the importance that Toronto plays in this 2 album kind of run, because this really sounds like what Toronto sounds like on a Wednesday afternoon in January. Like it's cold. There's a harshness to it, but there's also a moment of warmth when you see the people that you actually fuck with. That's what happens on this album. And then Views is what Toronto culturally is like. It's just a blending of mostly West Indian representation or Caribbean flavors, but there's this really beautiful mosaic that's present in Toronto that you really can't find. And I don't think any other city in North America. It's really exclusive to Toronto. So I think he kind of sets it up with like all right, I'm going to bring you guys back. America, I'm bringing you back to the cold and let you know, like, I'm here. And you don't have the Canada Goose jacket to withstand this coldness. But once the snow melts, let's have fun. Let's have a really good time. I think that's how he approached it. And I think it was a beautifully executed plan, if that was the plan.
Yeah, like the way like his delivery is both like cold and hard, but also there's like this goofiness to it. Like there's like the woo, like just like that's like a motif in the album, just like him going like, yeah, I'm the shit. And like, this is like, I'm like so good. But then like, he is at the same time still like Jimmy. Like there's still like a goofy, like silliness to it. Like there's a memeability, like the what's it called? The energy music video is all just memes and such, while also being like an awesome song. Yeah, but he's also like putting forth like, I think this is one of the last times we saw like Drake as artist forward, you know, like the way the genuine sample happens in like Legend, the way the pockets he finds in the songs, the beat switches that are like super like tasteful instead of just like random and such. So yeah.
The thing that I feel like I captured. You all are painting a much glossier image of what I captured when I was listening to this time around. And I think what I fixated on the most was the sort of the agitation behind the moment that he was in. And I think it's rightful, being someone who has done all of this work and still has to feel like they are proving themselves. It's like the question I was asking it while I was driving around was like, how you gonna be angry from the throne? Like, you can't be this mad. Like, you, and to me, I don't want to get into lines, but one thing that was pretty indicative of that was like the money and women line, where it's like, oh, okay, if that's your mindset, then it's like you don't have any other worries really. So what are you really mad about? Like, you're there. But at the same time, if you're going in these rooms and, you know, popping style for X so someone can repeat, then I kind of get where he's coming from. But at the same time, I kind of want to hear that more kind of loose Drake that I guess what Stanley was saying we got on Views.
Well, it's interesting because there's the visual aspect that goes along with this project that people don't really talk about that much, but I think paints a lot of what Stanley was saying of like this cold, frigid, you know, Toronto winter, but then also kind of what you were saying, John, of like a lack of trust and a lack of grounding and a lack of familiarity for him. Like when he goes back home in the visual, I think it's like a 12-minute visual with like, it's called Jungle. And, you know, some of the song, I think that's where like Know Yourself played and people were like, thought he was saying like running through the six with my wolves at first. But when you look at that and you're looking at like he's connecting with his like day one friends, but he goes back to this mansion and it's a bunch of like silhouettes of women and drinking and drugs and stuff, but he looks like lost in it all and like trying to like navigate through this still, which is like kind of the main motif on Take Care. So it's like he's still kind of lost in this world looking for grounding, and in order to do that he actually needed to go back home and like connect and reconnect with the city.
Well, I want to like share like kind of my two framing devices for like listening to this album. And the two framing devices I came up with, what this album reminds me of are like two movies from 1999, The Matrix, Toy Story 2. So like the thing about, so I'll start with Toy Story 2. It's like a movie where like Woody, you all seen Toy Story 2, but like it's a movie where like Woody basically gets a tear in his arm, and this triggers fear of like him, like the kid who loved him will throw him away and abandon him. So he then is like kidnapped by a collector. He discovers he's a vintage collectible from an old TV show, and he has the opportunity to be immortalized forever, like behind in a museum. And then Woody's now confronted with a choice, like, do I go back to Andy to be loved intimately for a few years and then be thrown away the second I show my brokenness? Or do I go to Japan and be admired and appreciated from like, and have my legacy cemented, but behind a glass? And I think Drake, I think like Drake chooses the museum. I think Drake chooses like, where he can go, oh, OMG, I'm a motherfucking legend. But at the same time, it's so lonely and empty at the top. He can't experience real intimacy except for his mom and his bed. The only thing, the level of intimacy he could like stomach is like needing, just having company, you know, just like having people around him, but not like letting himself like open up like really, really. And then like, anytime, and it's just like it's just this portrait of a man who beat the video game and is now like, now what? I guess I'll just beat the video game over and over again.
Well, to piggyback on that before you go to the Matrix, I think that's kind of where he was at in his career, and in his career he chose the museum route too, because if you look at like what you could do is like stay in the same kind of lane, the same sound, go back to maybe your roots of like comeback season or more of the rap stuff. But Views becomes this international, dance hall records. There's, the One Dance, which is like crazy big record, Hotline Bling, which is huge, like pop smash. So he kind of chooses the route of like, rather than getting a few more years of love from these people, I'm gonna expand my reach beyond what I ever thought and be a superstar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the Matrix, I was thinking about like, first of all, he says, I'm in the Matrix and I just took the blue pill, which is a Viagra joke, but whatever. He's positioning himself at the start of his career as like this everyman where there's like, who's taught that there's a Matrix and then overcomes the Matrix. And he's kind of positioning himself as Neo, where he's like stopping bullets and like, you think I'm an actor? You think like, I'm soft and like, and he just like stops. Like he basically is just like, uses his position to just like kind of like overcome the Matrix. But I think in reality, like I think what we learned like 10 years later and like from all the flaws that you were talking about, Jeremy, is like Drake might be closer to Cypher than Neo, where he's like Cypher masquerading as a Neo, where instead of using his position and power to free people, he's like enjoying the luxuries and riches of living in the Matrix. Where
I actually I just watched the Matrix for the first time in real full like this year.
Wow.
Dope.
What?
That's awesome.
Like I'd seen
What do you
it
think
like
of it?
years ago. Like, incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's so good. It's
incredible.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like top 5, hands down. Can I ask a question, Jeremy? Can I ask you a question? Because I think what Andrew did was really great with the Toy Story 2 and the Matrix. And I just wonder for you, like as someone who actually did this, like who said, you know what, I have a passion for rapping, I'm going to try this out. Like, did you feel like you were entering a boxing ring, or did you feel like you were entering a talent show? And what I mean by that is that, rap, and I've talked about this before, but for me, rap, unlike other genres, the competitiveness is a big part of it, right? It's not just like, let's try to have a top single. It's, no, there's a spot that I want that you have, and I'm going to come and take it. But at the same time, over this last kind of 25 years, you've seen artists that in hip hop that push the art form forward and have inspired people to be more artistic with their combativeness. So for you, like when you decided to pick up a mic, like were you leading with the boxing element or were you leaning with the artistic element?
I leaned with artistic, but very quickly became boxing. And it's funny because my media journey actually feels more like the rap game than when I was rapping, because I was rapping at such a lower level than what I'm doing now. Like when I was rapping, like I did treat it like that, but my perspective was like, I want to be worldwide, right? Like I'm online, entering rap competitions. I'm coming in like, top 5, top 3, winning competitions with 500 people in them. And I'm 16. I was always like the kid, like there was like battle rappers in there. Like shout out to Disaster was in this competition I was in. He came in like 4th or 3rd and I came in 5th place, So I was always like wanting to be the guy, but I quickly kind of learned where my cap was, and not to say that it wasn't possible to go further, but in my city, once I like did a little bit of the sparring to get to where I'm at, I was like, okay, like I don't know that this is for me fully. But once I started storytelling and doing media and doing interviews, the last 5 years has felt much more like boxing. Like media, it's like even if you're on a show like Culture United, who I'm on like, once every couple months with like some of the best minds in hip hop and some of the most like talented orators of my time, I'm coming in there trying to be like, can I come up with the best take? Like, what can I say that's unique in this group where everyone's going to have a unique take? If I'm on the bigger picture, like, how can I come up with something that's going to translate and spark a conversation that my peers will have to react to? Or if I'm like, coming for the spots that, and I do think there's an abundance of spots. So it's not like I'm coming for people's spots. I just want to be respected by the people that I look up to. And then once I'm there, I'm down to spar verbally, you know, I'm down to go back and forth. People throw shots at me on a podcast, I'm throwing it back, you know, pause. So it's like I feel like the battle rap nerd in me comes out when it comes to media just as much as it did when it comes to rapping.
I love that you said that because that's exactly what I think Drake was thinking too. And I think Andrew, with your Matrix comparison, I think that this is Matrix Reloaded, and he's now learning that there are other Neos. Like he's not the first one, that there have been other ones, and they've engineered it. I think this is what Drake has been battling with this whole career is that he's in this system, this industry that he first from the outside was like, okay, if I can just battle my way through the greats, then I will be the greatest. But now he's seeing that like all the stuff that he does, everyone's very quick to then choose another great over him. And he's just kind of like, hold on, I surpassed my mentor. I surpassed my idol. I surpassed anything that anyone in the rap has ever done. And yet I'm still not able to be number one like Jeremy was in those rap battles. I'm not able to get that number one accreditation across the board. And I think it pisses him off. And I think he stopped trying to battle after views and was just kind of like, I'm sitting on the CN Tower. Either you can accept this or not, but I'm no longer going to try to compete. And Kendrick forced him to compete again. I mean, Pusha forced him to compete, and we saw what happened with Pusha. And then Kendrick forced him to compete, and then we saw what happened with Kendrick. And I don't think that should take away from Drake. It's just a moment, you know. And unlike Jeremy, you're able to say, like, listen, I did a lot in music, and I'm seeing this other venue where I can do even more, and you were able to do more. I don't think Drake has found another venue. He hasn't found the media of it all to try to figure out how he can actually like compete again at the highest level. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something
Kobe
that's
found
missing.
like directing or whatever it was right after basketball, and he like won an Oscar, right? And then I think he said venture capitalism was his next like thing where he put everything into study, learn books. I think you're right. Like there hasn't been that next, and maybe he's not ready for it, but I think at this time he might have been. Like views, he said, I'm trying to retire at 35, you know? And I don't think he really felt like he got everything he needed out of it. I have a theory he was ready after For All the Dogs to almost do that. And this pulled him back in. Like, and Kendrick knew that it was strategic. But like For All the Dogs, if you look at like the news articles around the time that he was touring after that, there was like articles about his health and his like gut health. And he was saying like he was gonna take a break and like ready to like I think he said he was like ready to like take actual time off, which he hadn't done in ever. Like 2018 was maybe like the one time or whenever in between, if you're reading this and nothing was the same. Like the year in between was like the most time he's ever taken off. So I think he was ready to ride off into the sunset a little bit, and then that little guy from Compton threw a shot.
Yeah, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Click. Also, did you guys hear my steak joke at the end of the Matrix point?
No, I knew you had one. No.
Ah, damn it. Oh, and like it was gonna like the Matrix point was gonna culminate in a really awesome way. And I was like, and then like Drake is actually a cipher masquerading as a Neo, where instead of using his position of power to free people from the Matrix, yeah, he'd rather like all that. And you know what else Drake and Cypher have in common? They both love steak. And like that's it. Yeah.
That actually that's a good bar.
Yeah.
That's a good bar.
Yeah. That is
Sorry, my internet's so I don't know what's going on here. Like
just answer that after. Just
yeah.
punch that in.
punch in method. Every like podcast like I do is I usually go sono mono 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 and then I fill in the words afterwards. So like kind of like like fill in my interesting points afterwards.
That's a good one too. He's back, and you're so clear. It's perfect.
And your internet looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, and we're back here to talk about if you're reading this, it's too late. Yeah, we got Jeremy Hecht here. He's still here. And yeah, let's talk about this album. Like, what are some highlight songs from this album?
Jungle is in my top five. So I'll start at the bottom here, no pun intended. But Jungle, I would say is just I think even though he didn't do that much to the original song, like I heard the original version of the song that the guy who sings it, it pretty much is just that. But the way that he puts his verses in and the melody he has on top of it, and I do think it's actually a really earnest moment from him of like I want something and I do want love. And, I'm trying. Like, I think this is Drake genuinely trying and it just hasn't worked out. And it's like, the back and forth with a woman who he clearly has still admiration for and will always be there for, but it just didn't work out. Like, I definitely related to that song at the time. So and it's evolved for me over time. But so that one stand out. You in the Sixth, I think, is a standout as well. I think he's really like blunt about it, but it's very honest. Like he doesn't try to do too much. The instrumental is very low key, and he has melody, but he's basically just saying like, here's where I'm at. Here's how I feel. Like my mom gets Google alerts on her phone about me. Like she's always asking, like he's talking about Rihanna. He's talking about the interviews, the beefs. Like I think even Jay Electronica at the time had tweeted like he wasn't a Drake fan. And he's like, 40 and Drake, you guys did something with you in the Six. So it was like, the honesty cut through there. So those are two. And then the other standouts for me are the beat switches. I think Star 6 7 and No Tellin' are two of my favorite Drake moments where he's like flexing, he's like on his shit, mixed with, some moments of personal life and vulnerability. But still, like, I think looking back at No Tellin', I talked about Star 6 7 earlier, where like I liked that chunk of his life that we just got to randomly hear about. And I wish he actually did more of that. Like, not to say that he doesn't ever, even on his recent album, like Far Away From Home is a very nice picture into his life back then. But Star 6 7, which is a story we hadn't heard. And then No Tellin', looking back, I thought how it was crazy that Kendrick's To Pimp a Butterfly on there, Drake has the bar at the end where he's talking about like lions, tigers, bears. I go hunt and put heads on my fireplace. Oh my. And he's basically, obviously it's like, a reference to the musical, but like he's also saying I'm the guy. Whoever wants it, like boom, 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 I got you. And Kendrick on his To Pimp a Butterfly promo on Instagram, we found this on the bigger picture. He posted a picture and he wrote like lions. It was like lions, tigers, bears, whatever, or something like that. And he basically was referencing Dre. So just to see that their back and forth is still intertwined on one of my favorite songs on this album makes it all the more fun to look back on.
Can I ask you a question about that? And man, this Kendrick. So I mean, you have so much amazing knowledge. So if you look back, who was afraid to take the first shot? Like the real first shot? Why did it take 10 years for this battle to actually blow up? Was there ever a moment where they were going to actually do it in 2015, 16, so on?
I actually think the closest we got was 2017, when Kendrick dropped the Heart Part 4. It was before Damn. And Kendrick said, it was so at that point, Drake and Kendrick were still throwing shots back and forth on records. Like it just never stopped really. It was just kind of like at different times and crossing hairs and whatever. But at that point, he made a very clear statement, in my opinion, to Big Sean and Drake, but more directed to Drake, saying, if you want to say something, say it now and I'll pop out. Like he was like, if you want it, I will be there. And I forget the actual bars, but it's the whole last verse. And he says like, you ain't Hall of Fame host, sit your punk ass down. He's talking to Big Sean, but he's also talking to Drake. And Drake was probably close to responding. I don't know if there was a record. I don't have any knowledge to say that, but I do know, looking back, Kendrick had the actual verse ready to go on Element, right? Like the leaked version of Element where he's saying, just say his name, I'll promise you'll see Candyman. He's basically saying like, I will be there if you want this. But at that point, he redacted the version that had like the Drake and Jay Electronica and Big Sean. And I think there was even a Meek shot in there, or a Meek reference. So like Kendrick was ready. I don't know for what reason he pulled back, but I think he was kind of poking the bear, like, do you want to do this? We can do this. And I think at that point, there was some back and forth going on between the two behind the scenes. I just don't know to what degree, and I don't know what caused it still.
Sick. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarity. That was really helpful and
That
insightful.
was like that's the closest.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with your takes. I mean, No Telling for me is one of my favorites on this song. I mean, they're all, but No Telling when it comes on, it just makes me feel the type of way. And that beat switch, it's just like shout out to 40. 40 is like a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, 40 is crazy.
Like yeah, he's just so good.
The only reason he doesn't get the love that other producers get is because he's solely like worked with Drake. Like if 40 really spread his wings and worked in other pockets the way like an Alchemist did, or a Pharrell, or whoever you want to put in that spot, who's worked on all these projects, 40's pretty much chosen his guy and they've built a sound together. But he did it in a way that the sound affected all of hip hop for a really long time. So, and music.
My highlight is Legend. I think that's just like such a cool Legend by Drake. First of all, it's cool that Donald Glover named 2 out of his 3 kids after this song. Legend by Drake. So, but yeah, like
one of his kids' names is Legend, the other is Drake.
Yeah, yes, that's a fun fact.
Wow.
It's also a good diss because Donald can be like Drake's my son. But anyways, I just like I really love Party Next Door's like production on this, like the joy of like finding the sample after listening to the song, like it's just like learning about So Anxious by Genuine and just like loving that song. It's so beautiful. It's so lush. It's so like incredible. And it's still like kind of a music nerdy choice to put that as your sample. I really like that this is touching on subject matter that not a lot of people can really talk about. You know, this is like subject matter that's like most people don't die legends. Most people, if you're lucky, you have people close to you who like are really impacted and touched when you pass away. And like, but most people are kind of forgotten. Most people are kind of forgotten forever. And I really like the way that there's a bravado that comes out of it. There's a confidence of just, I think it turns into from aspiring to into just being, which is really incredible. Like just like finding your pocket and finding the thing you do so well, and then just like turning on a faucet and then just all coming out like this flow state of just like the first 5 songs, I think is a really strong case of like greatest 5 song run in like a project, like a hip hop project is a really strong case of just like this flow state of like, it reminds me of like Blueprint of just like how it feel, I don't know if it was, but it feels like it was all just like, okay, give me another beat. I'll do this one too. And then just
urgency.
Like, yeah. I really like that a lot.
I'll give Quentin another one.
We're on highlights, right? I'll for the rap moment, I will definitely shout out Know Yourself, and I'm gonna say Six God as well. Know Yourself, I think we all know why. I mean, that beat switch in itself was like the fucking lightning cracking the bell in Philadelphia. You know, it just was so unexpected, and just I was in New York at the time, so the streets, you could not go anywhere without a car blaring that song. But Six God, I really like, just for kind of a lot of the reasons why I like Drake's music. When you think about like a Headlines, or you think about God's Plan, he always picks these beats where it's kind of one note and kind of like a vamping sound, and it doesn't go anywhere. So that sets a default, but then like his energy and what he's bringing to the table is like where your attention goes. So that song is nothing but energy, and from his perspective, his delivery, and then he'll throw in that smooth coming from the mother this side. The ability to pull back and also do that cool and smooth and just like crooning in a song like Six God, like watch a motherfucking tone, boy. Like it's that requires so much dexterity from a like a planning point of view, from a song curation point of view, from a recording point of view. Love that moment on Six God. And I think just if we're talking about the album, like a moment on the album, the platforming of Party Next Door and the sort of movement from Preach into Wednesday Night Interlude.
Yeah, that's dope.
Because we got so much like high energy, and then that pulls it out into this dream-like area. Love a dreamy spot on an album. But also I like what's happening on Wednesday Night Interlude, like the subject matter of like that kind of late night feeling, but then a longing and also a reciprocation of the longing. I think that's really beautiful. And just there's so much imagery when you think about this woman being in Miami. So you already kind of have like an image of the type of girl, which in itself is an archetype, a stereotype. And then this kind of subverts that by bringing her to the love, and it kind of subverts the masculinity of kind of hip hop to some degree. And it's like, I need this closeness that I remember from you. So that like the Preach moment, and definitely from a production standpoint, Preach had like the craziest mixing, and Wednesday Night Interlude had the craziest mixing. Some of those choices just insane. So yeah, that's kind of my like highlight. I don't know if anybody endorses.
I skip Wednesday Night Interlude. I like no.
I like Wednesday Night Interlude. I do not like Six God though. That's
wow.
I know fair. That's probably a hot take because most people like that song. It's a little too overly like trying to be aggressive for me versus like some of the other moments that feel more natural. Like Six Man to me feels more natural than Six God. And I'm not just saying that because he has Six God in the title. Now and Forever has always been a skip for me, but every once in a while I'll go back and I like it. But besides that, I don't have any other skips. I think like Madonna, even every once in a while I'll skip. But do you guys have skips?
Wednesday Night, I would say, is a skip because it's just like,
yeah.
It should be called like Wednesday Night Song. First of all, it's too long. It's just like I feel like I get it after the first 2 minutes. I kind of get what he's doing. Like I don't. I just like don't. I'm not really feeling it. I just zone out completely on that one.
Just put it on a party project.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you
like
gotta introduce your artist. Like you this always happened. Like Drake, I mean, he introduced us to Kendrick. Like you have to put your guys on.
Don't
and
do
like
I mean, he kind of did.
Interlude. I mean,
he did introduce a lot of people to Kendrick, though, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, the broader audience, he'd been grinding.
Yeah.
You know, bitch, I'm in the club. Yeah, we know.
He had Section 80 in that, so it wasn't like he was a no one.
Yes. But for pop, it was like a thing that Drake was like, listen, this is a guy. But anyway, like I like John's description of Wednesday Night Interlude. I think it makes it fit. I just don't like it where it's at because I just want to be, braggadocious, bumping music in my car, windows rolled down. I don't want anyone to see me crying.
This is the project that has the A B C B, and then we're out. When we listen to these tracks, you got like a long verse, a wandering outro, long verse, rap sung. There's some serious formlessness to the structure of everything. So why not bring the R&B moment to the table? Why not bring the homie on so he can sing about this long lost love and we never heard of you? I don't know if you believe that as an artistic choice that formlessness is okay, then the presence of this interlude on the album is also okay. But
I think
okay.
it's actually his
I
best.
don't like it.
It's his best balanced album, I would say. His most balanced album.
Ooh.
Like I would say Take Care leans really far heavy into like the singing and the R&B and the emotion. Nothing Was the Same leans a little more into the, even though it has those moments, it's pretty much rap on every song, right? I don't think there's a solely sung song except for Hold On, We're Going Home. And then this album feels like it has a balance. Like you go up and down, and yes, it's a lot more like braggadocio, but there's still like, if you're going Preach, Wednesday Night Interlude, Now and Forever, Jungle, You and the Six, those are all pretty soft songs compared to it. So Legend is a singing song.
Yeah, you don't need this interlude that is in essence a hey, have you all heard of Party Next Door? Well, here's 10-20 minutes of Party Next Door. I'm gonna go take a pee break. Like it's just, I feel like it's unnecessary on this project for him to do it that well or that much when you just had Preach. Like Preach does the intro thing without having to then give him the whole platform to be Party Next Door. You know what I mean? And I just want to quickly mention with Six God, because I've been thinking a lot about Cudi listening to this, because I was trying to figure out like, why did Drake pierce through so well? And it's because of the kind of the Cudi formula where I think Cudi really brought melody to the highest level into rap. Like before Cudi, yes, there were like, obviously people would be melodic, but Cudi really made it a thing. And with like a song like Six God, Drake is so good at making melody feel hard. You know what I mean? Like with Cudi, it's like the melody feels so catchy and vulnerable and memorable, but Drake actually makes it like slap. And I think Six God's a great example of him being able to be super melodic, yet still have these bars are just like, oh shit, like he can out rap anybody. And I love that he was able to do that on that song. And I think that's why he became the best pop rap artist of all time, is because he understands melody and he understands bringing melody to a level that is still respectful of the art form of rap, which is again the competitiveness. It's hard to be a boxer if you're going to like sing your way through a match, but Mike Tyson had melody. You know what I mean? Like Mike Tyson kind of like sung his way and then just knock you the fuck out or bit your ear off. And I think Drake does this better than anybody else. Does that make any sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, Cudi, I actually, we were talking about like artists I love. Cudi was actually before Drake in my listening journey, where like he was the first person that I really connected to as my own artist. Like Kanye, I kind of found, right? Like 50M, Wayne, these were people I found because they were just at the forefront. Cudi's like the first guy I found myself through the blogs and was like, wow, this guy is like, and again, it's weird because at the time I was like 15 relating to a guy who was probably like almost 30, but like at the time I was like, wow, I really relate to what he's talking about, and like, his vulnerability and his dealing with women and success and life and pondering and whatever. But I think Cudi kind of got lost in it. He just embraced that side wholeheartedly. He's like, I'm gonna dive all the way.
Yeah, Cudi is like the philosopher in you, Jeremy. Like, you know, you have this background that people don't know about, but that's Cudi. Whereas Drake is like the rap media, oh, I'm out there version of you, where it's like, hey, like I'm gonna be, visible in any forum. You know what I mean? And in this era of Drake, and I guess I'll go to my highlight, which is like, I don't know, every song is a highlight, but I mean, 10 Bands, Know Yourself, like just that era where he is like saying to all of his peers, I'm the guy and nobody else, you can try to be me, but nobody else can actually be me. And then he almost forgot how to be himself after Scorpion. You know what I mean? Like, but in this moment, like Know Yourself, he knew himself and everyone heard it loud and clear. And then that song is just it captures this moment of his career, I think, so perfectly.
And the knowing yourself, my favorite part, like my favorite like kind of insights into this album is like him kind of embracing his past as an actor and like being not just that, but also like being the support system for his mother, being the support system. Like that's like when you think about that, that's a really like kind of fucked up thing he had to go through, like being the caretaker. His mother couldn't work, so he like had to be an actor, and all the money he made, like everyone has this idea of him in this suburban house and everything, like in the tuna sandwich and everything, but like he had to like really put himself out there. It was like really hard. It was a really difficult thing, and I know a lot of kids who go through that experience of they have to take it. They have to be the adults like way too quickly. And it's like, this stuff is like really like, and then him just like embracing it in terms of just like deflecting the criticism. Like, just like the acting line in Energy, like just like the line about like, like, try to run up on me, like try to like attack me, like, what are you going to do to me?
Yeah. There's a common anecdote that I've heard where Lil Wayne says, like, you don't have to navigate into the tough talk. Like, we like you as the sensitive soul. Yeah. Stay there. So there is also a line, like you all have said, Star 6'7" was a highlight, but for me, he says something about the Beretta on Star 6'7", and I was like, oh man, I don't think of Drake gets the gun guy.
Well, the only reason I didn't take too much on that bar is because I assumed he was just referencing like, I got new music, like I got the brand new, like about to let it go, like the mixtape is dropping, walk up in my label, like where the check go. Like I took that as the double entendre of mostly like it's music, but I see your point. It is still a gun bar. It is still a gun bar.
He loves his silly fake gun sound effects in his albums. Like he loves like, have you seen like the video of him just like when he's like performing trophies, just like shooting a fake gun and then like fire rises. I feel like this whole album is like him getting really good at pretending to shoot a gun, like really good at like this whole, like there's like a toughness to it, but there's just like this kind of like, oh, like in later years, he kind of like masters like the weight of the gun and like how like miming how like to shoot a machine gun and everything. There's like this kind of like, goofiness to it, which is like I think allows for more mass appeal too.
Yeah, because I think that's where I'm okay with this level of fake toughness, because again, growing up in Toronto, like I am not a tough guy at all. But when you roll the TTC, like you had to have this face on your face, or you had this fear of getting jumped. So you had to kind of give that impression without like looking people in the eye, gave the impression like, no, you don't want to fuck with me. Like, I'm not the guy that you want to fuck with, even though you're not that guy. Like, you're actually not that guy at all. And I think there's enough of the balance here that it's okay. It's when it gets to the point where he's just that guy that you're kind of like, okay, well, you're not. You told us you're not that guy. So why are you just flooding our ears with the constant bravado that isn't actually you? But like on the Energy, I think it's awesome to think about like, okay, I'm a legend, so you can't really fuck with me. I think that kind of that pairs nicely for me on this album, and then it sets the table for the rest of the run, which is again almost like a homecoming of sort that he's throwing for himself, and he realizes that he's by himself on a Wednesday night, and Party Next Door is singing to him. Like that.
He's going up on a Tuesday, and he's alone on Wednesday night. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, let's go through lowlights, and then we can kind of circle back to like things we might like, just like any lowlights on this album. I think just like my general low light is one, like it kind of gets like repetitive. It kind of gets like a little like, again, just like, oh, another song about another song bragging. Like, what does this do for the greater good? Kind of that idea, like the Tim Robinson sketch, like, what does this do for the greater good? But then there's also like this, I think the attitude towards women gets like kind of, it kind of gets like, it's kind of insidious the way it kind of like leaks in, like kind of like this company, the song, like where he's just like, I need you to take my mind off being in my pride. I just like wrote like, fuck you, you're such a dick. Like that's such
being in my prime, I think.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's such a dick thing to say. Like, and just like using women in this way, and then just like I do like the jungle like juxtaposition where he's like, okay, I messed up here, but like it is like too late. It's too little, too late, really, and it's just like kind of this. I don't know. It just like even like, are you down for the cause? Like this, like kind of creepy. Like I think from the beginning, like since Take Care, he's had this issue of like putting exes in his songs and like writing songs about his exes in this way that's kind of like kind of gross to me. Like, you know, putting the vocals in the Marvin's Room song, and then like the For All the Dogs, Rihanna, and then this one here. It's just like, and I don't know, it just like, it really just rubs me the wrong way in a lot of ways. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that happens a little bit in Madonna too, and I think sonically it's like a little too lazy for what I want to hear. So that's one that I tend to get a skip, but to kind of not piggyback, but just like double down on is like the idea of using stature to get what you want. Like you could be as big as Madonna. It's like we don't have to do that. But I also understand it from where he sits. I don't have that sort of accolade or stature, but I don't know. There's a different choice, I think.
I mean, I don't think he necessarily looks down on people, but from his vantage point, no matter where he looks, it's looking down because of how high he is. Like that's why I think some of the braggadocio bars continuously come off that way. But that's some of my favorite Drake, I think, rap wise, like when he's not trying to act tough, but he's just bragging about where he's at, like the restaurants he's at. And it's like, I don't know what the fucking restaurant reservation that you got at this place. I don't know the pasta you got, and I don't know the wine you're drinking, but it sounds luxurious. Like they make like all those TikTok memes about it, but I kind of like when he raps like that, like middle of the ocean, besides the Serena bars, or like Omerta, or like what's the one that he released with God's Plan? Diplomatic Immunity. Like I like that rapping. Like I'm at the top of the game, just like looking down and seeing what everybody's doing. Yeah, I guess I kind of already gave the ones I didn't like. I won't rip them too much. Madonna's a half skip for me, depending on the day. I don't mind it in context of the track list though.
Yeah, you kind of need
I agree.
Not as good song to like buffer the other types of songs.
Yeah, I will only listen to Madonna if I'm listening to the full album. But in the full album, I think it works. And then Andrew, for your point about like how he's viewing and treating women on this album, it's really again a classic example of when people are hurt, they either go and resolve that hurt, or they express it in a way that may not be as productive. And I think that, you know, he's not at this point where, at least in 2015, where he is at the top of the rap game and he's still connected to his past. And so it's almost like a fuck you to anyone that maybe he loved or fell in love with that passed over him. This is his opportunity to kind of be like, all right, now I'm going to stunt on you in a little bit. It's how I'm like interpreting it. And so I don't know if it's necessarily meant to be as evil towards women per se. I think it's more like he's still trying to resolve some of the hurt that he has on this album, where I really agree with your point about him later on, where there's a real disconnect, and it's a reminder to us that like, hey, like I'm the chosen one, you know, like I'm Anakin and you guys are not even close to being, you know, a Skywalker, let alone the Skywalker that, you know, it was the chosen one. So I think that is true. And I think that's where we kind of, as fans of music, we feel like Drake, it's like it's a weird thing where we never really give Drake the full flowers, because he is almost too kind of inaccessible in a way. Like he doesn't give us enough access to him. Like Jay does that too. Like Jay is very calculated, but Jay was just the greatest rapper of all time. So it's okay for Jay to be kind of like at a different pedestal. Whereas Drake, the vulnerability that he brings means that we are actually along for the ride. So when you don't actually acknowledge that we're in your car on this ride, it feels kind of weird. It's kind of awkward to be like, yo, you invited me in this car. And now you're saying, oh, it's actually a special limousine and you're the driver. So I'm going to pull my window up and never talk to you ever again. You know what I mean? Like it's like an awkward agreement that we have with Drake. But in 2015, I don't think it's as pronounced as it is in 2025.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm like trying to say is like the seeds are here and they metastasize of like just. Yeah, I think it's just like I'm seeing, and I think it's partly just like the hindsight of it all, really, and just like connecting less and less as time goes on, and then him positioning himself as so vulnerable, and then this song, I feel like this album is like the bridge between old Drake and new Drake in terms of just like you and the Six, he's saying like I can't be vulnerable actually. Like I'm like being vulnerable. I'm sharing these details about my life, and you'll get that. But if I really, really, really open up, like I can't do that like I used to anymore.
Yeah, he like eight miles the Kendrick beef a lot on this album. Like he on You and the Six, he talks about like I was teaser being black and now I feel like I'm not black enough. Like there's just a lot of moments on this album where he's almost predicting like, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to be, in a position where the culture isn't accepting me. And here are the reasons why.
But the next bar after that, he says, he said, because he says, I used to get teased for being black and now I'm here and I'm not black enough because I'm not acting tough or making stories up or where I'm actually from. He just didn't live up to that half of the bar.
Yes. And to that point, to your point and Andrew's point, exactly. He kind of decides in that moment, all right, y'all want Black Drake? I'll give you Black Drake. And I'm just going to be what I think you think is a Black Drake for the rest of my career. And then this is where Kendrick comes in and says, like, dude, like, why are you trying to be this? You're not this. And I don't think that Kendrick is saying that Drake is not black. I think he's may have said it kind of, but he's not trying to say that. He's just saying like you didn't have that experience of growing up in Black America. Even though his dad is from America and he spent time with his dad, his full kind of being was informed in Black America. So I think that's where it became a bit of a problem. But the acknowledgement was there earlier on from Drake.
Any stray observations? Any like kind of like things we haven't touched on that you like to just like say a piece about?
I think Travis is Drake's best collaborator in the sense of like out of anyone, I think they have the best batch of songs together compared to the misses. Like I think Ross is close. Ross is a close second. I just personally don't like Money in the Grave that much. And I also don't think Ross brings that much to the table on some of those collabs. Like, I think it's like somebody, shout out to, I forget who it was. I think it was Trent Clark, who used to be in Hip Hop DX. He's at TMZ now. I think he was the one who was saying, like, when I was like, I don't get why we really need Ross for this collab. And he's like, it's because of the vocal tone difference too. Like Ross being so like low and just like mafioso and boss like, and then Drake coming in with the more melodic side, like it balances. But if we look at like, I just pulled it up, like I don't love Meltdown. Okay, so I will say this, my take maybe falters last year.
You're not scared enough of the Six.
I wasn't scared of the Six. Shout out to love to the Six though. No, respect to the Six. But Company, great. Fair Trade, in my opinion, was the best song on CLB. I
really love that song. Yeah.
Pussy and Millions, great song.
Fire.
Great song.
Yes.
Portland, really good song. Really good song off More Life. And then Sicko Mode.
Yes.
That's a solid 5. But yeah, I like Company though. I even though he may have been talking, like, I like the way he was talking there. He was basically like, listen, I just want to stay home. If you want to just not work, be naked in the kitchen, cook for me every night, like you can have a good life. We'll be good. This is all good. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Yeah, basically.
I really like the Tyga diss in 6 a.m. in New York. It's such a really funny line. Say Tyga, I hear you like him young. It's an interesting line. So
No, that is another thing that people forget is that he was really going at Childish Gambino, and he was going at Tyga, and he was going at Jay, and he was going at Kanye, and he was basically shooting his clip to whoever wanted it. And that's why I say with Tyga, it's like that was very public. Like the same critique that was had of Drake during this battle was very public with Tyga, way more public and like way more in your face. And the only way he got out of it was making taste. So that's why I say if you make a banger of a record, it can forgive a lot.
Ooh. And that's a lesson with today.
That is the lesson.
Yeah. So let's go through final thoughts and ratings. The way this works is we'll rate this out of 10 with a fun metric at the end. Who would like to go first?
I'm seeing your guys' rating first before I gauge.
I'll go first because I feel like I have the least amount to say. This hit me at a time where, I was in the thick of pounding the pavement and like the multiple jobs kind of lifestyle, and definitely the energy that's on this project kind of matched where I was at then. Revisiting it now, it's a little tough for me just because it sits post beef, and as the dust settles, you kind of look at lyrics and hear things a little differently. But if I detach myself from that a little bit, then I'm still feeling it. I'm gonna give this, I guess, a 7 heaven. Stranger Things is heaven.
Wow.
7 heaven praying hands.
Did you give him a 7 because you're scared of the 6?
Ooh.
I can only do that joke once. I guess I could do that joke 2 more times. Like,
no, that's good.
Yeah. I just like, I really enjoy this record. My take so I didn't get to this in the actual like discussion of like pre-album stuff. But I found like I could never finish this album because I just eventually got bored of it. I just like, it felt like the one note in a way. And then like, I just got bored. Like by Wednesday night, I think that's why I don't like that song is like by then I'm like, okay, I'm tired of this. I don't want to like, this is the same note. And then it's just like this dreary, dreamy kind of song. I'm like, oh, I don't care. But like listening to this and like really enjoy, digging into this. I really love this album a lot. I think it's, I think just like the rhymes are like really cool. I love the diction. I love how he uses like diction and just like finds the pockets and switches up the flow, switches up the beats, tasteful features, artful construction while being fiery and of the moment and like getting the people going. I think to steal like Stanley's general point though, like I do think Drake is McDonald's in terms of just like, there's a level of like, yeah, check out my new single, Double Cheeseburger, featuring Travis Scott and like 21 Savage. And then like, oh, you don't like that? Well, check out this R&B smash, McFlurry. And like, there's a little bit of like variance. But like, if you eat all these items at like it for an hour, you're like, oh, that's too much salt. I can't feel my ankle anymore. Like, there's a level of just like, it's awesome. I like it a lot, but I'm just like, what does this do? Like, what does this inspire me to do? I guess like I wasn't there for when it was. I wasn't there for the moment where it was like had the most utility, really. So. I give it 7 bands out of 10. I chose 7 because I'm scared of the 6.
So this album allows Drake to enter into the 5 album kind of targeting of great rappers, and I think every great rapper MC has that 5 album run except for Big. Big only got 2, but but they were, massively great. So I'm going to give Big like 5 because whatever, it's just big. But I think with this album, what's cool about this moment is here's a kid from Canada who decided that he was going to dominate the biggest forum in music. And this album is his homecoming and him coming back and saying, I did it. I did it. We did it. We can do it, and we can continue to do this thing. And we've seen, The Weeknd, we've seen, Bieber have his moment. You've seen Canada really take over many moments of pop music since then. So I think it was a really great kind of a reminder that anything is possible. And what happens after is what happens after. But in this moment in 2015, this is Drake at his peak, and so I'm going to give this album 9 Madonnas hanging out with Party Next Door on a Wednesday night and seeing what happens. Question mark out of 10.
I do want to say I think you guys all have really unique perspectives and interesting takes. I've been interested to hear what each of you guys have to say about everything we've been saying. So this has been fun. Kind of what you were saying about the moment. This is the last time that Drake was undefeated. And so I take that into consideration of the moment and what this album represents too. Even though he won the Meek battle, it was he walked away with some bullet wounds. And I think up until this point, it was almost unbelievable. You're this guy, this is a crazy run. And this album is almost a victory lap for everything that he had done up until this point. It feels effortless. It feels like he's having fun. It feels like he's using all of the different superpowers that he has, from singing to writing to, and I know there'll be jokes, but where he did pen, and up until this point we didn't know anything different. So the superpower of the way he used words, the way he had new flows going, it's entertaining the whole way through. I think it represents where he's at in his life, looking towards the future, but really, even contemplating on the outro, I wonder what's next for me, longevity. I wonder how long the check will be, or whatever the bar may be. He was basically saying I'm going to be here for a long time. I know I'm already a legend, but I'm aiming for a run. And it just represents, I think, all sides of the best parts of Drake to me. It's not my favorite Drake project ever, but I think I have it at number 3. I have Nothing Was the Same, Take Care, If You're Reading This Is Too Late. Depending on the day, I might call it a classic. I might not other days, depending on how many skips I give it. But I will give it a strong 8 point something, 8.2, 8.3 out of 10.
Do you choose that because
I'm scared of the 6 and 7.
Yeah. And 7, 8, 9. So you couldn't use that number either.
I couldn't go 9. I had to go back to 8.
Oh, I'm so funny. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for taking the time. We really appreciate you for just being a legend. If you died, people would say you're a legend from the 6.
No. From the 204.
No.
No, thank you. Thank you, God, for another day of life. That's what I say every morning. And thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. I liked flexing my past Drake knowledge here and remembering my once stand-up, and hopefully the OVO group chat will be okay with me speaking on their man for this long.
Anything you like to plug? Anything you like for people to check out of yours?
Yeah, so if you were unfamiliar, I'm on a show every week called The Bigger Picture with DJ Head. Elliot Wilson drops every Saturday on Hip Hop DX YouTube and on Apple and Spotify. We talk hip hop, we debate, we interrupt each other, and we have jokes. It's a good time. Soundcheck, my show on Uprocks, drops every Wednesday. I play music for people that I know they like or hope they like, and have them make some tough decisions. Have to guess what song they write down on a piece of paper at the beginning, at the end of the show. Ab Soul episode is out now. That drops tomorrow, technically for you guys, but that was one of my favorite episodes. And it happened to be shot the same day as the Red Bull Cypher. So it was a lot of energy in that building. And then Culture United on YouTube on Justin Hunt, the company managed channel that comes out every once in a while. I think it's about once a month. So I'm on there every once in a while, I would say. And shout out to him, the legend. And yeah, follow me on Instagram at Jeremy_Hecht. Same on YouTube. I drop when I can on there. And if you're listening to this, it's too late. I'm gone.
Oh no, Jeremy!
I'm here. I'm alive, but I'm just saying I'm gone from the broadcast.
Yeah. I was gonna make a Jeremy. You put me in a sticky predicament. No, that like okay. Anyways, thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day. Click 666.
These guys.
Yeah.